Hello everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Skyrim. Last time we cleared out a little place called Greywater Grotto and explored all of the roads connecting places we've been before to the ruins of Helgen. Today, I'm going to clear out those ruins of their new inhabitants. Start by picking open the locked gate. This one has an apprentice lock. I have 5 spare picks to break, so we'll do that too. Alright, let's go inside. Most of this is just burned out buildings. Oh, but look, we've attracted a few bandits already. Good God. You dicks, leave my horse alone. Jesus Christ, Marie. Let's close the gate. Maybe that'll keep him out of it. Better to take a target off the board, I think. Big fella's down. We've attracted one more. I need to see what variety. Looks like caster. Handled him. Now there are 3 more on their way over to check things out. Here we're back at Helgen Keep, so we can kind of backtrace our way through where we went with Hadvar and Rayloff back during Unbound. For now I'd like to heal up. Just hide over here because I don't think anyone's really close enough to me to be a problem. Well, lo and behold. Thankfully, one bandit. No problem at all. From what I could see, there are 2 more out in the main town I'll need to worry about. Let's heal up again. Or work on healing up again. Nothing's really changed as far as layout goes, although naturally we couldn't really get a good look at it during Unbound. But the courtyard of the keep is cut off from the rest of the town, where that wall has collapsed. Let's move this guy's body over. There are still 2 entrances to the keep. we'll go in the far one, like we did when we first followed Hadvar. I can reanimate one of these guys. Let's do the regular bandit first. Now I can reanimate the thug. I'll do the same thing with him. He's down. Let's head up here. Now, we didn't go over to this gate during the tutorial. Let's go take a look at it. Oh, not yet. Looks like we'll deal with the bandit first. To ourselves.
Prepare to die. Can't win this. Best you. No.
Alright, now we can heal up, now we can pick that apprentice lock as we heal up, and wait for the magicka to recharge so that we can reanimate the bandit outlaw up there. And there's what I called the second exit in the last video. There should only be one bandit left, and she should be over at the top of that tower, so we're pretty safe. Here's a burned out house. Right around here is where General Tullius and all of the battle mages were shooting at Alduin when he yelled at Hadvar to go into the keep because we were leaving. So if we're tracing our route back to the beginning, we would go through this burned out house, and we will just as soon as I deal with this corpse. And she's down. Alright, so let's go back through this house. It's the first burned corpse. We'll find a few of those. Here's where Hadvar yelled at us to stay close to the wall. More burned out buildings with nothing inside. The last bandit seems to have spotted us. Now we get to the old inn. And in here, there is some stuff we can pick up. We couldn't do anything when we were here during the tutorial because the hands were We'll kill and loot this thug. Can heal up. Loot the inn. Worry about that other bandit later. Let's just get all the stuff out of the inn. We're here on the ground level.
Kill me.
Okay, through here we can make it out to the good old Executioner's block where we started the game. Burnt corpse, bone meal. There's the block. It's the tower where Alduin landed. This is where everything started. Now we couldn't go this way on our first trip, but here's the third exit. This is ultimately where I'm gonna go. But we need to re-clear the keep first because its layout has changed with its new ownership. There's another burnt corpse, bone meal. Here's the tower where we first took refuge with Rayloff and Ulfric. Let's head up to the top. There's where Alduin
Someone there?
punched a hole in the wall. It's just a regular level 1 bandit up here. Almost. Alright, let's search this chest. 64 gold. We can go ahead and reanimate her. Now let's go back. Wait. Let's jump out of Alduin's hole so we can explore the second level of the inn. Some clutter up here. The main thing, if you paid attention to what Rayloff said during the cart ride, this is a nice bit of attention to detail. We have mead with juniper berries mixed in, scattered all about the top level of the inn. You might remember Rayloff reminiscing about that very thing. Anyway, let's reanimate this thug now and deal with her. Now that's it for the actual town. Now my carry weight's at 358. And the keep's basically a full-size dungeon, so I'm gonna quickly head to Falkreath and offload before we go tackle the keep. It's not even 8 p.m. yet. I just made it. Good.
Got something for just about everybody. Well met. Some may call this junk.
Was this
Me,
poison?
I call
You
them
got it?
treasures.
No. It's okay, though. Now, we didn't get anything too valuable, but we did get a lot of stuff. So, we might have to reset him once. We'll see. Probably. Yes, we will. Alright, let's give him all the zero value stuff. Not much of that, but there is some.
Steal anything
Let's
from my
reset
shop.
him real quick.
Oh, you think? Ah!
And what I've discovered
Can I
is the
get you
fastest
something?
way to do
Take a
so.
look.
Poison resistance, no. Alright,
Be seeing you straight.
back to Helgen, where we will explore the keep, see what the new owners have done with the place. we're back. I'm just gonna head straight for Hadvar's Keep entrance. The far one from here. Anyway, what I read about fighting lag is that you should use the PCB command anytime you enter an interior cell. So I'm going to start doing that. The lag just comes from aggregations, you know. Well, it looks like this hasn't actually respawned. Not this part of it, anyway. But I hear new inhabitants. Well, Hadvar's section is empty. Poor Gunyer is still here. We can probably reanimate him. Oh, Gunyer resisted reanimate corpse. Alright, well here's Rayloff's entrance, if you came through with him. Let's just keep going. All this stuff is empty. You can probably hear bandit dialogue though, so I know it has in fact at least partially reset, and the bandits are in here. Here they are. Both level 1. How sad for them. Down they go. Let's take their stuff. Oh, looks like the cell hasn't reset at all. It's just partially repopulated with bandits. Well, that's fine by me. We'll just clear them out and get on with our business. Let's reanimate Tweedledum. And let's keep moving. Well, looks like anything that I emptied stayed empty. Well, let's head on down to the torture room. See if there's anything new here.
Said you'd wait for me. But they never wait. Never should have come.
We got a bandit caster. Here we've got some stuff that's changed. Coin purses, potions, a bunch of tankards and ale, and a copy of the archery skill book, The Black Arrow V2, which we, you should remember, have already read. Another level 1 bandit showed up. Unbeknownst to me. Oh, we might be able to reanimate the dead mage, too. I'll have to check. Let's check him first. If it doesn't work, I can just quick load and use the bandit. Well, him we can reanimate. Good.
At last.
Not that it does me much good. Alright. Let's do this guy now. And then keep moving forward. Carry weight's at 216. That's respectable, considering how little has actually happened. And let's keep moving. Nothing in the cells. But this skeleton is intact, so I should be able to reanimate it. Ah, it resisted. fine. Let's keep going. What about here? What about this skeleton? Resisted. What about the Stormcloak soldier? Resisted. Okay. What about this skeleton? Resisted. What about this one? Did not resist. That's what I'm talking about. Got him. Very good. Let's head down here where we had the biggest skirmish with the Stormcloaks.
What was that? Over here.
Bandit Chief and a few cronies. Let's go fight the cronies. Got an outlaw. He's now dead. Bandit. Dead. And the chief, who seems to be at the bottom. And that's it, because if you think back to the tutorial, the passage to continue out... Oh. Well, it was supposed to have collapsed, but there's another bandit there. Let's kill him. This is not supposed to be intact. Well, now I'm confused. Let's clear out this room first. We've got 4 corpses, all of which I believe I can successfully reanimate. One. There's 2. Search the boss chest when I'm done with her. Actually, I have a better idea. I'll search it now! Alright, let's put her back down. Conjuration to 100! That's our last reanimation. Come on now. Game didn't like Conjuration getting to 100, apparently. But that little bit of strong work. I can pull 100 Conjuration off of my build list. Much more importantly, we're done reanimating, which means I can take these little conjuration spells off my favorite list. Get rid of a bit of the clutter. Oh, well, now I'm curious. I thought that the passage was still collapsed. and you couldn't keep going past this point, but it looks like I was wrong. Well, let's do a real save, well, I call it a real save. A quick save is real too, but I think you all know what I mean. Celebrate this milestone. No more reanimations, conjuration is done. Now, as you know, these tunnels form a loop, and I kinda need to explore both of them. There's not really much for it, but to pick one path and take it, and then go poke around in the other one. Still nothing in this area. Let's go look up here. There was some stuff during Unbound. I don't know if there will be anything new or not. I don't have to try to reanimate that skeleton. How cool is that? So cool. Alright. Well, turns out there's nothing in there either. Oh well. Excuse me. Now we only have 3 schools of magic to worry about. Destruction, restoration, and alteration. I'm gonna keep killing things with destruction. Number 1, I highly doubt there's anything left to kill. Number 2, even if there is, it's pretty easy to cast flames in little bursts. Getting into the spider section. I don't believe the spiders respawn, but they might. Looks like no. What about the cave? Well, that certainly demands to be investigated. But I'm gonna guess all this stuff is still empty. And it is. Getting to the last section now. The exit with the bear. I'm gonna go ahead and guess the bear hasn't respawned either. No, but look there. A spider has. In a completely different part of the cave. Come at me. We could reanimate him, but we don't need to. Just heal up and keep working. And we made it back to the exit. So there's Helgen Keep Revisited. Now there is still one other thing I want to do, but I can't be over encumbered for it, so I'm going to need to circle around and find my horse and offload, and then head to that exit I mentioned earlier. Let's just hop up here, get back behind that cave exit. I know you can do this, come on. Come on, Dovahkiin! There you go. Yeah, you can see Helgen right there. Our secret exit really isn't too far from it. It's 4:30 a.m. We'll have good timing back to Falkreath as soon as I get back to the horse. Alright, we're at the north gate. My horse is at the east gate. And our eventual exit is out the west gate. There's Horse Bro. Still alive and kicking. That's what I like to see. Let's hop aboard and go to Falkreath. Visit our friend Solaf.
Don't go setting the place on fire, okay?
Well, trinkets, odds and ends, that
He
sort of
hasn't
thing.
reset since last time, which suits me just fine. Start by selling him weapons. Weapons are clear. Let's do apparel.
Steal anything from my...
I did sell something below value there,
You'll
which I didn't
regret it.
quite mean to do. But
Can
no
I
worries.
get you trinkets, odds and ends, that sort of thing?
Poison resistance. No. I can sell him the 31 gold book. I don't care. Let's get out of here.
Be seeing you, stranger.
Get back to Helgen one last time. Now you could consider this approaching our next location. In fact, I may intentionally turn it into that. Let's cast Mage Light a few times, but I don't want to go too crazy. Let's get back to the west gate, where I said I wanted to exit from. And show you a little something about those roads. Well, I should say that road. Okay, I'm gonna stop mage lighting now. We could run into something. Up there are those cliffs we looked at earlier, to the north of Greywater Grotto. Let's run down this road and see where we end up. There's a deer there. I do want to kill it. Let's go back to iron arrows. No need to reanimate, of course. We can just harvest and move on. We can do the same thing to this one in front of me. And the third one I can see there through the trees. Oops. Deer hide and venison. Deer hide, small antlers and venison. Couldn't help but notice a few butterflies over here. The main thing, let's get back to the road for this. Make sure I didn't miss any plant life. Around this bend right here, there is an unmarked camp in this overhang. A veritable swarm of bees. Catch all these bees, at least as many as I can see. And as you can see, there are a ton of them. Always exciting. Here's the hive. I hear at least one more. Ah, now I see two more. I think that about does it for that. Nope, one more. Right, now let's check out the camp. What do we have in here? A rabbit, a bucket, some sacks, a longbow, a tankard. This place is uninhabited. Score! Actually, it's just like one we were at earlier where... Now, I can't remember if this one is all... The trigger is also the chest, like the other, or if it's just coming in here. I think the chest must be the trigger. Oh. Let's not do that quite yet. Let's look at a new book. A light armor skill book called The Refugees. First, I need to go take that off my list. And then go look at free skill boosts. Light armor has 5 remaining. There are 2 skill books to find and 3 quests to do. The Refugees by Gero Salbray. The smell of the bay oozed through the stones of the cellar, salt and brined decay. The cellar itself had its own scents of old wine turned to vinegar, mildew, and the more exotic spices of herbs the healers had brought with them to tend to the wounded. There were more than 50 people squeezed into the big earthen room which had once been forgotten storage for the brothel above. The groaning and whimpering had ceased for now, and all was still, as if the hospital had turned into a mass grave. "Mother," a Redguard boy whispered. What was that? The boy's mother was about to answer him when there was another rolling roar from outside, which grew louder and louder, as if some great but incorporeal beast had come into the cellar. The walls trembled and dust burst from the ceiling in a rain of powder. Unlike the last time, no one screamed. They waited until the weird, haunting sound had passed, and then was replaced by the soft rumble of the distant battle. A wounded soldier began whispering Mara's prayer from the doomed. "Mankar," a Bosmer woman curled up in a cot hissed, her eyes feverish, flesh-white and wet with sweat. "He is coming." "Who is coming?" asked the boy, grasping his mother's skirt tight. "Who do you think, lad? The sweetsmonger?" a grizzled one-armed Redguard growled. "The Cameron usurper." The boy's mother shot an angry look at the old warrior. "She doesn't know what she's saying. She's sick." The boy nodded. His mother was usually right. He had not yet even been born when people began whispering that the Cameron usurper was coming towards her little village, and she had packed up their belongings to flee. Their neighbors had laughed at her, she said, saying that Rihad and Tanith would handily defeat him. Her husband, Lukar's father, who he was never to meet, had also laughed at her. It was harvest time, and she would miss out on the celebrations. But his mother, Miyaki, was right. 2 weeks after she fled the village, she heard the tale that it had been obliterated during the night with no survivors. Rihad and Tanith had both fallen. The usurper was unstoppable. Lukar had been born and grown up in refugee camps throughout Hammerfell. He had never known a friend for more than a few days. He knew that when the sky burned red to the west, they would pack up and move east. When it burned to the south, they moved north. At last, after 12 years of moving from camp to camp, they had taken passage across the Iliac Bay to the province of High Rock and the barony of Dwinnen. There Miyaki had promised and hoped that they would have a peaceful, permanent home. It was so green there it blinded him. Unlike Hammerfell, which was only green in certain seasons and in certain places, Dwinnen was verdant year-round, until wintertide when it began to snow, and Lukar had been frightened of it at first. He was ashamed to think of it now, when there was real danger. But the red clouds of war, the stink and pain of the refugee camp, that was familiar. Now the red sky was on the horizon of the bay and coming closer, and he longed for the days when a scattering of white made him cry. "Mankar," the Bosmer woman cried out again. "He is coming, and he will bring death." "No one is coming," said a pretty young Breton healer, coming to the woman's side. "Hush now." "Hello?" came a voice from above. The whole room, almost together as one, gasped. A Bosmer limped down the shoddy wooden stairs, his friendly face very obviously not that of the Cameron usurper. "Sorry if I frightened you," he said. "I was told there were healers here, and I could use a little help." Rosena hurried to take a look at the Bosmer's wounds on his leg and chest. Disheveled but still beautiful, she was one of the favorites at the brothel, who had learned her healing skill along with her more vocational skills at the house of Dabella. She carefully but quickly pulled the rent leather cuirass, chausses, tassets, greaves, and boots off him, and placed them to the side while she examined the injuries. The old Redguard warrior picked them up and studied them. "You were in the war?" "Next to it is probably a better way to put it," the Bosmer smiled, wincing slightly at Rosena's touch. "Behind it, beside it, in front of it. My name's Orban Elmlock. I'm a scout. I try to avoid the real battle so I can get back and report what I see. A good job for people who don't like the color of their own blood very much." "Zim," said the warrior, shaking Orban's hand. "I can't fight any more, but I can fix up this armor if you're going to return." "You're a leathersmith?" "Naw, just a jack of all trades," replied Zim, opening up a small canister of wax to prep the hard but flexible leather. "I could tell you were a scout from the armor, though. Can you tell us what you've been spying on? We've been down in here for half a day now, with no word from the outside." The entire Iliac Bay is one great battlefield on the waves, said Orban, and sighed as Rosena's spell began to close his jagged but shallow wounds. We've shut off the invasion from the mouth of the bay, but I was coming from the coast, and the enemy's army is marching over the Rothgarian mountains. That's where I had my little scuffle. It's not too surprising, moving the flank in from the side while the front battle is occupied. It's a play right out of Cameron Kaltos's book of tricks the Heart King borrowed. The Heart King? Lucar asked. He had been listening quietly, understanding everything except that. Haemon Cameron, the Cameron usurper, Haemon Heart King, they're all the same, lad. He's a complicated fellow, and needs more than one name. You know him? Miyaki asked, stepping forward. Near on 20 years before this whole black, bloody business, I was Cameron Kaltos's chief scout, and Haemon was his sorcerer and advisor. I helped them both when they were vying for the Cameron throne, and began the conquest of... Ouch! Rosena had ceased her healing. With eyes of fury she had reversed her spell, and the closed, mended wounds were opening again, dark infections returning. She held him with surprising strength when Orban tried to pull back. You bastard, the healer courtesan hissed. Excuse me, I have a cousin in Falinesti, a priestess. She's fine, Orban yelped. Lord Kaltos was very adamant about not harming anyone who did not pose a threat. I think the people of Kvatch would disagree with that assessment, said Hazim coldly. That was horrible, the worst thing I have ever seen, Orban nodded. Kaltos wept when he saw what Haemon had done. My master did everything he could to stop it, begging the Heart King to return to Valenwood, but he turned on Kaltos and we fled. We are not your enemy, and we never have been. Kaltos could do nothing to prevent the horror that the usurper has brought to the Colovian West and Hammerfell, and he has fought for 15 years to prevent more. The frightening bestial roar passed through the cellar again, even louder than before. The wounded could not help groaning in helpless terror. And what is that? Miyaki sneered. Another of Cameron Kaltos's tricks that the usurper picked up? It is indeed a trick, as a matter of fact, Orban yelled above the screech. It's a phantasm he employs to scare people. He had to use fear tactics in the beginning when his power was ascending, and he has to fall back on them now for his power is waning. That is why it took him 2 years to conquer Valenwood, and another 13 to half-conquer Hammerfell. No offense to you Redguards, but it isn't only your battle prowess that has been holding him back. He does not have the support he used to have from his master. The echoing roar increased in intensity before once again falling silent. Mankar, the Bosmer woman groaned. He comes, and he will destroy all. His master? Asked Lucar, but Orban's eyes had gone to the Bosmer woman, curled up in her blood-soaked cot. Who is she? Orban asked Rosena. One of the refugees, of course, from your friendly little war in Valenwood before you and your Kaltos changed sides, the healer replied. I think her name is Kalis. By Geoffrey, Orban whispered under his breath, limping over to the woman's cot and wiping the sweat and blood-streaked hair from her pallid face. Kalis, it's Orban. Do you remember me? How did you get here? Did he hurt you? Mankar, Kalis moaned. That's all she says, said Rosena. I don't know what that is, Orban frowned. Not the usurper, though she knew him too. Very well. She was a favorite of his. His favorites, you, Kaltos, her, all seem to turn against him, said Miyaki. That is why he will fall, replied Zim. An armored footfall rang along the ceiling, and the cellar door burst open. It was the captain of Baron Othrock's castle guards. The docks are on fire. If you want to live, you'll need to take refuge at Castle Whitemore. We need help, Rosena called back, but she knew that the guards were needed for defense, not to help carry the sick to safety. With 10 guards who could be spared and the most able-bodied of the wounded assisting, the cellar was emptied as the streets of Dwinnen filled with smoke, and fire began to spread through the chaos. It had been a single fireball miscast out at sea striking the docks, but the damage would be tremendous. Some hours later, in the courtyard of the mighty castle, the healers were able to set up the cots and begin to tend once again to the suffering of the innocent. The first person Rosena found was Orban Elmlock. Even with his wounds reopened, he had helped carry 2 of the patients into the castle. I'm sorry, she said as she pressed her healing hands onto his wounds. I lost my temper. I forgot that I am a healer. Where is Kalis? Orban asked. She's not here, Rosena said, turning around. She must have run away. Run away? But wasn't she injured? It was not a healthy situation, but new mothers can surprise you with what they can do when it's all over. She was pregnant? Orban gasped. Yes, it wasn't such a difficult birth in the end. She was holding the boy in her arms when I saw her last. She said she had done it herself. She was pregnant, Orban murmured again. The mistress of the Cameron usurper was pregnant. Word quickly spread throughout the castle that the battle was over, and more than that, the war was over. Haemon Cameron's forces had been defeated at sea and in the mountains. The Heart King was dead. Lucar watched down from the battlements into the dark woods that surrounded Dwinnen. He had heard about Kalis, and he imagined a desperate woman fleeing with her newborn baby in her arms into the wilderness. Kalis would have nowhere to go, no one to protect them. She and her baby would be a refugee, like Miyaki and him had been. Reflecting back, he remembered her words. He is coming, and he will bring death. He will destroy all. Luca remembered her eyes. She was sick but not afraid. Who was this he who was coming, if the Cameron usurper was dead? Did she say nothing else? Asked Orban. She told me the baby's name, Rosana replied. Mankar. So if you played Oblivion, you know that Mankar Cameron is the guy who engineers the Oblivion Crisis. And that's the story of how he was born. Anyway, let's open this chest. I have 4 extra lockpicks to break, and it's only a novice lock. But when I search this chest, the 3 bandits who this camp belongs to are going to come back. There we go. Here they are. Outlaw here. Let's eliminate the easy targets first. Bandit. An even easier target. And we got a highwayman. Easy to handle straight. Especially since all she has is a slow and a Alright, with no need to reanimate anybody, just move right out. Now we're going to come back to this camp. It's a good reference point for the next location, but let's just do a little bit of exploring down on this road first. What town is that? Oh, Lakeview Manor. Huh. Well, I guess that kind of gives it away, doesn't it? Damn. I was gonna get him. I might still be able to. So as you know, we've reached the point where we can one-shot them, even without a sneak attack. As long as I can line up a single good shot. Which I didn't do that time. Well, it looks like I did that time. Let's head down there, and then let's get back to the road. There is still the 3rd one. Anyway, that shack I don't want to mess with quite yet. Well, quite yet. I won't mess with it for a very long time. Those bandits have respawned. I don't care to fight them again. But just note, we're back at this bridge. You might remember the turn we took. That's the 3rd deer I wanted to kill. Anyway, I hope you remember this bridge. And that group of bandits. Up on the winding road, past Ancestor Glade, past, well, it eventually makes its way all the way up to, Angie's camp, and Bloodlet Throne. Now, I don't want to do this shack yet, but I did want to show you this road. That shack is Pine Watch. It's the site of a Thieves Guild quest, an important one, and if we go there too soon, it can actually bug the Thieves Guild quest and make it incompletable. Just through that gap in the rocks, you can actually see the roof, is Lakeview Manor, just past Pine Watch. For my part, I'm going to get back on this road and head back up toward Helgen until I close the gap and make it back to that, what's the word I'm looking for? That bandit camp. Now from here, I can catch a couple more bees. The main thing is if you just turn directly south and go straight back to the mountains, you'll find yourself at my next location, Bone Chill Passage. Unlocked the last destruction perk I want. Augmented Flames 2. It's not something I've been hoarding a perk for, but it'll be the next perk I take. Or at my next level up, I'll take it. Let's heal up before moving on. We're nearly done again, but do note the iron ore vein right here. Anyway, so many things have now come full circle. We made our way back to Helgen. Looked at all those roads back to Falkreath and Lakeview Manor. Let's look at this little shack right here. This is important. We have 2 burnt corpses and a woodcutter's axe. We're up above the waterfall, which leads down to the camp those bandits inhabit. Remember where we found the alteration skill book? Let's look inside their shack and see what the deal is. Oh, we got some plant life over here. Let's not forget that either. But in here, under the desk, is another new book. I believe it's a pickpocket skill book. Purloined Shadows. Yes. In addition to that, if we go to free skill boosts, my pickpocket is already at 100, but I now have 2 free pickpocket boosts left to find. There's just 1 skill book and 1 quest. Purloined Shadows by Wogan Jarth. Chapter 1. The candle was lit and the thief was standing there, blinking, caught. She was young, rather dirty, wearing ragged black clothes that were surely quite smart and expensive weeks ago, when she had stolen them from one of the city's best tailors. The look of surprise slipped from her face, and she took on a blank expression as she put the gold back on the table. "What are you doing here?" the man with the candle asked, stepping from the shadows. "That's a stupid question," the girl replied, frowning. "I'm obviously robbing you." "Since nothing I have is missing," the man smiled, glancing at the gold on the table, "I would have to say that you're not robbing me. Attempting to rob me, perhaps. The question I have is why. You know who I am, I assume. You didn't just come in through an unlocked door. I've stolen from everyone else. I've taken soul gems from the Mages Guild. I've robbed the treasury of the most secure fortress. I cheated the Archbishop of Julianos. I even pickpocketed the Emperor Pelagius at his coronation. I thought it was your turn." "I'm flattered," the man nodded. "Now that your ambition has been thwarted, what will you do? Flee? Perhaps retire?" "Teach me," the girl replied, a little grin finding its way unconsciously on her face. "I picked all your locks. I slipped past all your wards. You designed them. You know how difficult that was for someone without training. I didn't come here for 6 gold pieces. I came here to prove myself. Make me your student." The Master of Stealth looked at the little girl burglar. "Your skill is not in need of training. Your planning is adequate, but I can help you with that. What is without hope is your ambition. You are past stealing for your livelihood. Now you steal for the pleasure of it, for the challenge. That's a personality trait which is incurable and will lead you to an early grave." "Haven't you ever wanted to steal that which can't be stolen?" the girl asked. "Something that would make your name known forever?" The master did not answer. He only frowned. "Clearly I was fooled by your reputation." She shrugged and opened a window. "I thought you might want a willing accomplice on some great act of thievery which would go down in history. Like you said, my skill at planning is only adequate. I didn't have in mind an escape route, but this will have to do." The burglar slipped down the sheer wall, dashed across the shadowy courtyard, and within a few minutes was back at her room in the run-down tavern. The master was waiting for her there, in the dark. "I didn't see you go past me," she gasped. "You turned on the street when you heard the owl call," he replied. "The most important tool in the thieves' repertoire is distraction, either planned or improvised. I suppose your lessons have begun." "And what is the final test?" the girl smiled. When he told her, she could only stare. She had, it seemed, not misunderstood his reputation for daring. Not at all. Chapter 2. For the week leading up to the 8th of Hearthfire, the skies above Rindale were dark and alive as clouds of crows blotted out the sun. Their guttural squawks and groans deafened all. The peasants wisely bolted their doors and windows, praying to survive that most unholy of days. On the night of the summoning, the birds fell silent, their black, unblinking eyes following the witch's march into the glen. There were no moons to light the way, only the leader's single torch in the gloom. Their white robes appeared as indistinct shapes, like the faintest of ghosts. A single tall tree stood in the middle of the clearing, every branch thick with crows, watching the procession without moving. The lead witch placed the torch at the base of the tree, and her 17 followers formed a circle and began their slow, strange, wailing chant. As they sang, the glow of the torch began to change. It did not diminish at all, but its color became more and more gray, so it seemed a pulsating wave of ash had fallen on the witches. Then it grew darker still, so that for a moment, though the fire yet burned, it was darkest night in the forest. The penumbra continued until the torch was burning with a color without a name, emptiness beyond mere blackness. It cast a glow, but it was an unnatural scintillation falling on the witches. Their robes of white became black. The Dunmer among them had eyes of green and ivory-white flesh. The Nords appeared black as coal. The crows watching overhead were as pure white as the witches' cloaks. The Daedra Princess Nocturnal stepped out of the pit of uncolor. She stood in the center of the circle, the tree of pallid crows her throne, aloof, as the witches continued their chanting, dropping their robes to prostrate themselves naked before their great mistress. Wrapping her night cloak around her, she smiled at their song. It spoke of her mystery, of veiled beauty, of eternal shadows, and a divine future when the sun burns no more. Nocturnal let her cloak slide from her shoulders and was naked. Her witches did not raise their head from the ground, but continued their hymn of darkness. "Now," said the girl to herself. She had been up in the tree all day, dressed in a ridiculous suit of mock crows. It was uncomfortable, but when the witches had arrived, she forgot all her aches and concentrated on being perfectly still, like the other crows in the tree. It had taken considerable planning and study between her and the Master of Stealth to find the glen, and to learn what to expect in the summoning of Nocturnal. Gently, silently, the burglar eased herself down the branches of the tree, coming closer and closer to the Daedra Princess. She let herself break her concentration for just a moment, and wondered where the master was. He had been confident in the plan. He said that when Nocturnal dropped her cloak, there would be a distraction, and it could be quickly taken in that instant, provided the girl was in position at the precise right moment. The girl climbed along the lowest of the branches, carefully pushing aside the crows that were, as the master said, transfixed by the princess in her naked beauty. The girl was now close enough, if she only reached out her arm, to touch Nocturnal's back. The song was rising to a crescendo, and the girl knew that the ceremony would soon be over. Nocturnal would clothe herself before the witches ended the chant, and the chance to take the cloak would be over. The girl gripped the tree branch tightly as her mind raced. Could it be that the master was not here at all? Was this conceivably the entire test? Was it only to show that it could be done, not to do it? The girl was furious. She had done everything perfectly, but the so-called master of stealth had proven himself a coward. Perhaps he had taught her a little in the months that it took to plan this, but what was it worth? Only one thing made her smile. On that night when she had stolen into his stronghold, she had kept one single gold piece, and he had never suspected it. It was symbolic as stealing the cloak of Nocturnal in its way, proving that the master thief could be robbed. The girl was so lost on her mind that she thought she imagined it for a moment, when a man's voice yelled out from the darkness, "Mistress!" The next words she knew she didn't imagine. "Mistress! A thief! Behind you!" The witches raised their heads and screamed, ruining the sanctity of the ceremony as they charged forward. The crows awoke and burst from the tree in an explosion of feathers and toad-like cries. Nocturnal herself whirled around, affixing the girl with her black eyes. "Who art thee who dares profane?" the princess hissed, as the pitch shadows flew from her body, enveloping the girl in their lethal chill. In the last instant before she was swallowed alive by darkness, the girl looked to the ground and saw that the cloak was gone, and she answered as she understood, "Oh, who am I? I'm the distraction." They have a chest, with a black soul gem inside, lantern, silver necklace, and a note to the authorities. I'm going to take this off my list, then we'll read it right quick. Down in notes and letters. Note to the authorities. I have heard talk about the dragons, but didn't believe it until now. One flew by last week, and ever since we have seen him fly back and forth from a nearby mountain peak. My wife thinks we should move away, go somewhere else. I told her that would be nonsense. As long as we don't bother it, it won't bother us. Still, I thought it would be best if we report it to the local authorities. The creature's lair is just south of the hill behind our shack near Bear's Cave Mill. Well, that didn't work out, did it? Nope. Anyway, you can see a path up from their house. Let's take it. I have no idea what took off half of that bear's health, but it doesn't really matter. Now note that path, but first, let's close off one more little exploration channel by continuing this way to the east. You might remember I mentioned that other path out from Greywater Grotto. I'm actually just underneath it, but let's loop back up. And let's take it over to the west. You're mine, Fox. As you can see, the path kind of disappears and then reappears when you get back to this little segment above that shack. And if we follow this up, suddenly stonework. We arrive at our next location, Bone Chill Passage. Let me take that off the list, then we can go offload. And then we can come back here and we will be done. Awesome. Time is it? 7:47. Alright, I just have the time to do this.
Let me know if
It's PCB
you see
again.
anything you like. Well met. Trinkets, odds and ends, that sort of.
He's still at
Steal
0
anything
gold.
from my
so-
shop. What do you think? Can I get? Oh, a bit of this and a bit of that.
Poison resistance? No. Let's go reverse order this time. Let's start down at miscellaneous. Then do books. Then do ingredients. Then do food. Then potions. Then apparel. Then weapons.
Be seeing you, stranger. Looking for something? Trinkets, odds and ends, that sort of thing.
Poison resistance. No. Alright. Now we can finish out weapons.
Until next time.
Now we can head back to Bone Chill Passage, and we will end the video there. As you can see, we've connected up all those roads, which is pretty exciting. Now, Bone Chill Passage is the way to Ancient's Ascent, where we have a bounty quest to kill a dragon. It's the only thing at those roosts. Well, we'll see how it goes. Next time, we're going to enter Bone Chill Passage and start working our way up toward Ancient's Ascent. Until then, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.